So I want to talk about whether you should get a government job to pay off your student loans. I know that this is a really common thing for people to talk about. And I'm going to tell you right up front, I don't think that that's a wise decision. I think that that is actually a terrible decision to do that. And I'm going to explain why with this video. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Maslach. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for it to help you out. So there's these programs, various different countries where, particularly in the United States, they have, I forget what it's called, but I think it's the, public servant repayment plan or something like that. Where you get a government job, so you go to university and you get this huge debt, and then student debt, then you go to a government job, and I think it's a 10-year period where they will pay it off after you've worked for 10 years at a government job. And there's a couple of reasons I think that are really, really important that you need to realize why this is a bad decision. The reason why they are doing this is to incentivize you to go get a government job that pays below market value. The government is never going to be able to pay what market value is. And so what they are going to do is try to incentivize you to have these sort of crazy incentive schemes to get you to go and work for the government at a below market wage, right? It's a marketing technique. It's a way for them to kind of sucker punch you to getting to go into the government, and then once you get into it, you become sort of socialized in government positions, and then you think that private positions are somehow like below you. They stigmatize. Like the whole thing is very much a sort of stigmatized behavior, right? Because we get to sort of we get a lot of friction that's built into human behavior, and once you get into those different roles, then you feel wedded to those different roles. So you're going to be getting paid below market value to go do something that to pay off this particular thing. So if you went into the market and you found a job that actually provided, so if you had comparable jobs, right? So one of them was making you an extra $10,000 more in the private industry, or doing the sort of student loan repayment thing. If you actually do the financial calculation, if you're making that $10,000 more and you're investing it, paying off your student loans as quickly as you possibly can, like just going gangbusters on it, and then invest that, you're going to be making a heck of a lot more in the long run by doing that, investing it in something that's really legit, like just mutual funds, basic mutual funds, index funds, like really simple stuff. It's really not like not sketchy in any sort of way. You're going to be making like gangbusters more by doing that, and you're just by doing that sort of financial calculation. Yet nobody does it, right? Because they're sort of getting finagled to do these kind of things. That's why people go into the military and all those kind of things, is because they think that it is a better deal, and often it's not. That like these government programs that they have are they're kind of a sucker punch, and you have to realize what it is. Like every other kind of marketing technique that they do, not just government, like private industry does, give you a free offer to go do this thing. It's a sucker punch every time, and then you end up overpaying for this thing, right? You have to realize what they're trying to do. They're trying to incentivize you to go take a position that is probably worse off by having this sort of incentive that's there, and they're kind of taking advantage of you. However, so here's the thing that you need to there's two caveats that are really important. The first thing is just apply everywhere to different positions. And if the only job that you get is that public servant job, and if it's a decent job, take it, right? Like take it. Like that's an important thing. That is, if it is good, like you are, so a lot of people that watch this channel, they're PhDs or, doctors and that kind of stuff. If the government job is actually good, take it. Like you should not feel bad. However, if there's a private industry job that's really good and there's that possibility that's there, and it's good, I mean like good being, hey, it pays well, you enjoy it, it seems interesting, there's lots of opportunities, take it as well, right? Like, why are you thinking that one is better than the other? Like, how stupid is that? Is people in both of them, they're both organizations. Like, why should you feel like this is somehow worse off or better off? And I'm speaking to myself because I feel like I know I'm goofed up. So I feel those kind of things. But if you're listening to it, really try to listen to it. The other thing that I think is super important, right? So that's why I'm just like, take that into you can take that student loan repayment plan into consideration and do it in a financial calculation and look into it and see if it's better off. But 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be. You're actually, the private industry is almost always better. But look into it though, to like really consider that. And there's different. You could look at. There's different calculators online to actually figure out the real cost of these things. It's usually not too hard. Just use a savings calculator to find it. And you can figure out how much you're actually benefiting by getting the student loan repayment plan. And you just pop it on top of what your salary is. So do the financial calculation. The other thing that you need to realize is that what I'm getting you to do to think about the private industry thing is a little riskier. And what you need to really focus on is actually how you're living. And that's going to be the important thing. That's actually where I kind of believe in a little bit of what the Dave Ramsey stuff is just live really below your means for both of them. I think that's super important to realize that and just live below your means. Have a crappy car for a long time. Live in a smaller home. Just live really below your means. The more that you could do this, if you can live in a tent, I know that seems like extreme. That's going to be super beneficial though. Financially, if you could do that for a year of living in a tent where you're making $150,000, man, you're going to be doing well. But who's going to live in a tent, right? So there's all sorts of stigma associated with that. But hey, you can do well by doing that. So that's one thing. And then the final thing that I wanted to point out. So this is actually, there's 3 things. The third thing is you have to meet those stipulations that they have. And often it's really hard to meet those stipulations to actually get that money. And so just realize that you have to make sure that everything is perfect, and we're all imperfect. So the chances of you having all of these stipulations done in a contractual obligation over 10 years is next to none. So what I would do is, and this is kind of what Dave Ramsey says too, is just save that money, invest that money that you would otherwise have, basically double up what you're doing, right? So with the student loan repayment is, make sure that you're having that money, you're setting aside the same amount of money that the government's actually paying. And you put that into a nice little investment account, and you do that over 10 years, it's going to be a lot of money. And then if anything happens, nobody's going to do this anyways, right? Like nobody's paying attention to me anyways. So if anything was to happen after 10 years, you could just take that money and pay it off. Or you can use that to go buy something awesome, a bigger house or whatever at that point. Nobody's going to pay attention to me anyways. I'm just talking into thin air. So, but that's what I would do. I think that's very useful information. I know life's a lot harder than all this kind of stuff, but listen to it. Super important for you to do this. Don't get into, I think the biggest thing is don't get into a position where you have those massive student loans if you can handle it. There's far too much private education that's available, particularly in the United States. That is not great. It's not good. And it will actually lead most people astray. Some private education, I'm not against private education. There's lots of private education. There's some private education that's worth it. That's at a really good institution. Everybody knows it opens up doors, but there's a heck of a lot of private institutions that don't do that. And you're going to end up getting burnt in the long run. So, but with that, hey, nobody's going to listen to me anyways. I'm just a dog barking into the thin air. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.